This is the GROSSO close?
Yeah, this is what you've been learning. So what I'm going to do on this video is I'm going to do version 1.0 of the GROSSO close as I've best got it incorporated. For those of you who are transitioning from our original way of closing to this method, I think this outline will very easily help you quickly understand that all we're doing is moving where we do things, not anything different than what you were doing. Same three-step and ARIO, he calls his something different, but they're exactly the same. I'll use the same term because it's what you're used to hearing so that you know where you're putting what where. We're going to use the same conversation for deposit. We're going to ask for it in a different spot. We're going to talk about finance programs, but we're going to give them 3 like GROSSO did. We're going to introduce them just like he did in the book. We're going to do them sooner. We're going to use this technique of talking about the future to keep pressure off. And then I'm going to incorporate the Lou referral and talk about that so we can ask for referrals and how we transition into the initial visit incentive. So this will be a mix of an outline incorporating the framework, if you would, of how you would do a GROSSO close. And as I also internalize it over the next few weeks, I'll do version 2.0 and 3.0 and 4.0, where I'll start layering in the correct verbiage as I'm memorizing it out of the manual. But now you can immediately get the advantages of this talking about the future and a better way to frame what we're asking for. A much smoother process than what we were doing. So that's what I want this to accomplish. So you have done your one click. And what we're going to do is we don't want to use 15% anymore as your 1 year. It's too much. If you got a $25,000 one-click number and you're doing 15%, you're talking about in one fell swoop, you're going to take over $3,000, $3,200, $3,500 off. I know it goes contrary to what we've been doing for so long, but it really pushes the realm of reality. It just doesn't quite make sense. So what I would like you to do, and Mark will get the letter out soon, and the letter's either going to have like 9.7 or 11.7 on it. I'm going to use 11.7%. We want to use an odd number so it generates a really odd number. And if the letter says 9.7, that's no big deal. It's going to be somewhere right around there. So when you figure your one-click number, I want you to still create the line item of the 1 year price guarantee. Regardless of any increase in labor and materials, this price will be good for 1 year. And then figure 11.7, put that in the line item, save it, go to your presentation screen, the little TV in the upper left, so you lose all the itemized pricing and you just have the descriptions in 1 each or 2 each and what have you, and the total at the bottom. And the total at the bottom will now be your 1 year number. Once you have that number, I want you to use the iPad and literally read them the order right off of the iPad so they see that this isn't some mystical number you pulled out of thin air. Obviously there's software and it was calculated down to the penny. And as soon as you read it off and you get to that number at the bottom, while you're saying the number, take your price presentation sheet and write 27,778. That's all it is to do all the work. And then at that point, I'm going to use green for things that I wouldn't be writing on paper. I am looking for the nose. You must now literally dig out, mine a conversation out of them. Do not run to the next step. Consciously carve out a conversation. If the person goes, wow, that's a lot of money. What are you comparing it to, John? Well, I'm not really comparing it to anything. It's just a lot of money. I'm not discounting that at all. I understand that completely. I just wanted to see if you were comparing to something. What are your initial thoughts? I don't know what's going through his head. I don't know. I want him talking. What are initial thoughts? There's no way I could do that for that much money, or just seems like a whole lot of money, or I don't know how I pay for it. Which, I don't know how I pay for it is not an objection, is it?
It's the best thing you can hear.
Yeah, it's the best thing you could hear. Well, if I got great news, remember what our best feature is? Affordability, John. You just hold on tight, because I've said that a dozen times up to this point. So you must take what they give you and create a conversation with it. Another good technique, you can do it a couple times, is if they say something and you don't know what to say back, just take the last 3 or 4 words and create a question with it. We can't do anything like this till next year. Can't do it till next year. And they'll then go to tell you why they can't do it till next year. So that will add to the conversation. Learn to smile, nod. And the key here is they might not say anything for a couple of minutes. The closer they are to actually buying, the longer they're going to not say anything, because what are they doing?
Considering things.
They're considering it. They're processing it. If you had reached a point in a sales presentation for something you were looking at, and you are now serious, I might actually spend $27,000. I like everything. I'm getting ready to do this. Wouldn't you take a hot minute to just kind of run back over everything and double check the boxes and make sure that what you were doing really made sense for you? The longer they sit silenced looking at this number, the closer you are to making the sale. Please don't interrupt their thought process. Please don't stop that from happening, because if you start running your mouth, they shut down. You're talking yourself out of the business. Even if they come to the conclusion, I'm just not going to do it today, they feel inside how close they were. And you're good. You're in great shape. So you're going to look for the no's. You're going to create a conversation. Now, when the time comes, you like that? When the time comes? When it's time, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to point out John and Mary. Now, remember, as I told you earlier, this is guaranteed for a year. Don't say this is our 1-year price. Don't use the word price. This is guaranteed for a year. You see how sometimes the cost of labor can go up over a 12-month period, or the cost of goods, like we saw in the last couple of years. It was crazy. In COVID, remember how I showed you things went up just 12% earlier, and just between last year and this year? So this number protects you against all that. Literally 11 and a half months, you want to come back, regardless of what's happened in the market, you can get this project done. You know exactly what you're looking at. Now, let me ask you, when you do decide to move forward with the project, would you be doing this with cash, or would you do it with finance? If they say cash, I must determine whether, when you say cash, are these funds that you have readily available, or were you planning on going to a bank to secure the funds? You've got to find out whether they're a true cash customer, or whether they think it's cash to you, but it's still a lending situation. So when you say cash, are these funds you have readily available, or are you going to be sourcing them somewhere, going to a bank or something like that? Okay? No, we have the funds readily available. All right? And I might even put a little F and circle it if that helps you remember. If they say cash, and they say, no, I've got the funds readily available, then you need to explain about the third, and the third. We'll come back to that in a second. Now, if they say they're going to do finance, you go, great. I'll tell you about our great financing options in a minute. Let me ask you this, and then you go into asking for the deposit. The deposit's next. So they were cash. You go to the deposit. You go, John and Mary, on our cash agreements, we like to get a third at the time that you place the order, not at signing, not today. A third when you place the order, a third when we bring all the materials, and the final third only when you're completely satisfied with the project. Does that work for you? And if he goes, yeah, I'll write a third and circle it. So if they're finance, John and Mary, you said you'd finance it. So when you decide to do the project, we do like to get a good faith deposit. Most people will do between 10 and 20%. On your job, that would be somewhere between $2,700 and $5,400. You can do it check, cash, and I do have a shovel if we need to dig the backyard up to find the mason jars. Does that work for you? And I'm just finding out if they say, yeah, that works. What are you thinking between the 27 and 54? What kind of number were you thinking? And get them to give you the number, and I'm going to circle it. And as soon as they give me the number, I'm going to make them figure out where that money's at by saying, was that with a check or was that with credit card? Or are we headed to the backyard? No, I used that with a check. Okay, fantastic. Now, if they're a cash customer, where I don't have to go into the payment options, and he said he would put the third down by check, I'm now going to go, what's that check number? Can you go grab your checkbook for me? And assume the sale. Not asking for the business, assume the sale. If he says credit card, what flavor? Visa card? Do you have it on you? Let me get that card from you. And see if he'll hand me the card. Total assumption of the sale. But going on the finance thing. Now, if they don't have the 10 to 20% on a finance, I'm simply going to anchor them on a lower amount and then ask if that works. So, folks, it's a good faith deposit. I don't want you losing sleep. I don't need the money to run the company. Would you be more comfortable if we did something around 12 or 1500? Would that work for you? And they'll either say yes or they'll tell you the number that they can do. So he says, I could do 1,000. Would you do that with check or credit card? I do it with a credit card. Fantastic. And I write it down and I put credit card and I circle it. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about 3 finance, not payment options, not 3 loans, 3 finance options. So, folks, I got 3 options for you on the finance. We have the 12 months, same as cash. We also have really great interest rates. They're not 12, 14, 18% kind of stuff. It's only 9.9. And we could do 60 months. And I figure it up real quick. And that would be $553 a month. I just use my payment estimator right in one click. Or I could do 9.9% for 84 months. And I change a couple things in the payment estimator. I can include the $1,000 to get a true number. And that would be for $43 a month. Now, when you look at those 3 options right there, John and Mary, when you look at these 3 options, John and Mary, which one works best for you? So I'm not even going to gravitate to the same as cash unless they bring it up. Again, no overload of information. If they go straight to talking about the 553, 443, then that tells me they're not a same as cash customer. If they bring up same as cash, let's say they do, might do the 12-month same as cash. Great, it's a wonderful program. Or if they say, didn't you have 24 months? We do, we have that as well. I do want to make you aware, whether it's the 12 or the 24, while you have no fixed monthly during that period of time, and as long as it's paid off in its entirety in that time, you'll have no interest. You have to have it paid off in that time, or it's a terrible loan afterwards. It goes back to day one. It's a super high rate. You just can't take a chance on that. Do you have the funds that you could literally pay this off on any given day? Do you have the money readily available? And if they say yes, and they were talking 24, I'll mark this out and I'll change it to 24 and circle it. And I got to have the conversation we role played about how to move that. I'm not going to have it now. I'm going to get them closed first, but then I'll have that conversation. And I know that I'm going to be offering something for them, so I'll hold that amount back so it doesn't burn me. But again, I'm not trying to take big giant steps. The same little bites all the way along to the close. Little single decision bites as we go. But most people, it's not eligible. So when I go here, I'm then going to mark a line through it. Now, if they tell me the higher monthly number works, what is that? What are they telling me?
That monthly payment's not a concern. Yeah.
Correct. If they pick the higher of the 2 monthlies, you don't need to ask them if it works 12 months out of 12 months, because they'd have picked the lower one if there was an issue. The number of the monthly isn't a concern for them. So you could just circle the bigger of the 2. If they tell you it's the lower one, if they pick the 443, you do need to ask them, are you completely comfortable 12 months out of 12 months with that figure? because maybe they picked the lowest one just because that was the lowest one, but it's still too much for them. So you're always going to, you don't worry about it if it's higher, and then if they pick the lower, you confirm that they can have it. They say, well, I mean, I picked the 443, but even that's a reach. You know, I don't know that I'd be comfortable every month. Well, obviously that needs to take place. I don't want you doing anything if you're not just overjoyed and completely happy with how it works for you. So what if we could do something more around and take about 80 to 90 off? What if we could do about 330, 340, something like that? Would that range work for you, get it under 350? And if they say, no, Aaron, I couldn't do anything over 300. All right, so we need it under 300. Now, I purposely came out at 60 and 84 to have tools to negotiate. So I have leverage to negotiate. Now at this point, we've got an overall, we've got a deposit, and we know a monthly needs to be. I can make an attempt to close, can I? Yes, sir.
With the nines that you do for 60 and 84, do you do those calculations on a separate calculator?
On the payment estimator in one click.
Okay, so
If you'd have been here, you'd have known
okay.
that. So when I get here, I'm going to simply ask, because he gave me this number, but I haven't told him I can get it yet. So I'm going to say, let me ask you, John, if I can get you qualified for one of our other lending options where we can get it under 300, would that make you a lot more comfortable? Okay, not would you buy today, not going to have your order. That's the asking. I'm totally just making an assumption. Would that make you a lot more comfortable? Sure will. All right, let me see if we can't get that done for you. And I'll go and pull the 120 out of them. I'll make a phone call, an MOD call to get them qualified, tell my manager what I need, and I'll give them the 120 and see if we can't close it here. But if he goes, no, Harold, what if they don't go for the close here, what are they going to do? If I look at him and say, so if I can get you qualified for one of our other lending program or one of our other finance options where we could get you under 300, would that make you a lot more comfortable? And if he goes, well, and then what are they going to do? They're going to give me
money objection or BS objection.
Right, they're going to give me one of two types of objections. They're going to complain about the money, and if the money, it's the overall, or they're going to give you this, still, we need a couple of days, we're just not ready, this is something we're going to do 6 months, we want to talk to other people. Whatever didn't get put away is not going to come back. And at that point, if it's a money objection, you'll do the 3-step value bump. And you can see a video of that on the YouTube channel of me doing the 3-step value bump. Or if it's an anything else, so we got to think about it, a couple days, need to get estimates. I'm going to ARIO. There's a video of that also on the channel. And that will allow it either way to come back to the money. So I've brought it back to the money with the objection. Now, from what we learned yesterday, and Lou's video of doing this is on there. What are we now, since we brought it back to the money, dealing with ARIO or the 3-step value bump, now I'm teed up to have what conversation that Lou gave us.
No, I don't know if you want to do this.
It's not for everybody. Right. So now what we have to do with Lou's is Lou's close and asking for referrals. The last thing is called a timeline close, which is where he's talking about the number of jobs and 100 people on the street. He's saying the same thing in different words that Grosso said about the initial visits and the savings and efficiency to the company. I want us doing it the Grosso way because that way is layered in through the whole demo where it's a natural accumulation of what you've put together. So that's what I'll be working on in version 2.0 of what we're doing, so that we'll ask for the sign and the referrals and the testimonials and the before and afters, and then we'll transition into Grosso's verbiage for the initial letter, all right? But let's talk about the mechanics of what's happening here. So when you're here and then you've ARIO'd them or 3-step value bumped them, before we roll into the program that's not for everyone, we're going to do what? We're going to tell the people what? This is the takeaway. Before I leave. Okay, so you actually start packing up a little bit. And what does anybody remember what we say with before I leave, what the rest of that is?
Ask for a glass of water.
I think there's actually this is the part I'm also learning as well. But I would do a takeaway. So there's a script there we want to learn before I leave, and he starts setting up for the next thing. But for now, you could literally go, well, all right, well, let me start getting packed up here and get out of your hair. Maybe you get a glass of water. And just kind of take the pressure off. Oh, he's leaving. That's it. All right, we're done. All right. And then I'm going to stop and I go, folks, I do have one other program. It's not for everybody, but I would be amiss if I didn't share it with you before I left. And GROSSO has something about, if I could show you how to save a bunch of money, you'd be interested in that program, wouldn't you? There's some verbiage like that, and they go, yes, we would be interested in how to save a lot of money. And so that's how he transitions into it. So we need to all take a look at that, and I will be very quickly putting out another version that incorporates that. So now, don't be upset about the fact that you're talking about the before and after pictures and your reviews and your referrals here, because it'll actually help you when you do need to make a social media call, because the social media call is calling your manager looking for anything else. And if he starts going down the road of, before and after pictures, Mr. Spire, I got them. They've agreed to do all that for us. If you've got some, are you telling me you can free some marketing dollars up for that? And you're good, and it'll still tee you up for being able to get that savings. It just strengthens it, in my opinion. So, back here, other financing options to see if we could close. We couldn't. They either brought it back to the overall, or they came up with a BS objection. BS ARIO, overall 3-step value bump. Well, I think we've answered a lot of your questions, putting it away. And I go, folks, I do have one other program. It's not for everybody. But if I could show you a way that you could save a significant amount of money, is that something that would interest you? And of course, they're going to go yes. And then at that point, you can go into talking about, and we don't use your art sign, so I wouldn't talk about the art sign. I would talk about the social media, like and follow us on Facebook, before and after pictures, 5 referrals, and then I would stop there and get them to agree that they'll do like and follow you on Facebook, have them go do it right there on their phone, go to Remodel USA, like and follow Remodel USA, have them start with the referral conversation. The video of how Lou asked for that is on YouTube. You can listen to it and practice that. They agree to before and after pictures. You should have already taken your before pictures in the inspection. I've already got the befores, so I just know that you let me have afters. And I can use them on our Facebook site, and I can use them in presentations like I use these others, or we could put them in a Val pack or something. Doesn't have your name anywhere, but it's your before and after pictures if we choose to use them. You're okay with that? And they go, yep. And then you get the referrals using Lou's method. And then at that point, you can use the GROSSO method. Now you've got your 5 referrals, and you can bring out, all right, let me show you where this savings I was talking about, this incentive, not discount, never a discount. Savings or incentive. Oh, and you got to give me a firm no or a yes. And I really like Lou's point about when you ask for it, don't say yes or no. They remember the last thing you say. I want a firm no or a yes. What do you got, RJ?
I was going to say, you said to tell them to give us a follow and like on Facebook, but he was saying to get a Facebook and Google review right there at that moment in the house.
Let's do both.
Okay.
Let's do both. Because I want reviews. But I want them to like, because we post stuff to our Facebook site. If they like and follow us, they'll continue getting that flow through months after if they like and follow the website. So we're going to get before and after pictures. They're going to like and follow us on Facebook. They're going to do 2 reviews, a Google and a Facebook review. They're going to give us 5 referrals, and they're going to give us a firm no or yes. And then at that point, you've done all that. You got the reviews, they like and follow, they give you the 5 referrals, and then you take them and you talk about that lead in to the initial visit incentive. You're going to bring the letter out and the coupon at the same time. Folks, these are just two different ways we get the same message out, because it's all about the savings and efficiency we as a company get when someone decides to move forward. Now we can say today, or now, because we're talking about now, and we want to give you back those efficiencies. We're after the business. So that's where all this money comes from. And you put the letter and the coupon out there, and then you go to one click, and you literally hit the trash can and trash can that line with the 1 year price guarantee, and the number drops right in front of them. And now at this point, I'm going to reach in my back hip and pull out the 120 months, and I'm going to quote them 9.9 at 120 months. Now, if they said 300 and my 120 months comes back at 312, I'm still going to show them the 120 months. I want the layers of negotiation, because this shows me working for them and gets me through the nose. So I want these layers of conversation. So let's say I do the 120 and it comes back at 312, and I go, and we can get everything done for 312 a month. That 312 is just a little bit over that mark, isn't it? You had said 300. I said, I tell you what, let me see if I can get you, because let me see if I can. Hold on a second. Let me check on something. And I'm going to pick up the phone on a first MOD call. I've already got the letter out. I'm at 100% of one click. And I'm calling my manager to see if I can get that special financing option, which is the 144 months, and brings it down to 264 or 274. They hear me working for them, and then I can put that in front of them and go for another close. So at this point, you're at 100% of one click, and you've had several closing opportunities. And now, if you had to go further into the close, you would call and get your social media for 8. Then if that doesn't go, you're going to do the flex install like we have on the channel, call to see if there's one available after they qualify. And then you've still got the manager special where you always porch light if you haven't porch lit before. There's a return on investment close in the GROSSO manual. I will be layering that in this process where we do it before we go to the incentive letter as well. I'm just not ready to execute that. If you feel you're ready to read it and get it in, where I would put that is in between the referrals, and right before I go to the incentive letter, I do the return on investment close too. But I'm just not ready to do that well, so I'm going to wait. Do you see the structure and framework of what we're doing? Those of you transitioning from what we were doing, I hope you're really excited, because all we're doing is doing this in a much clearer order, and we're taking the pressure off, because we're saying things like when the time comes, when you decide, if and when, because that keeps the conversation with no pressure, keeps them honest. They're going to want to talk honestly to you. It keeps it conversational. And then once you get into the program, it's not for everybody, but it would save you a significant amount of money. Is that something that would interest you? And then we ask for the reviews, like and follow on Facebook, 5 referrals, before and after pictures, and then a firm no or a yes. Then we can talk about the letter and the coupon. Go to 120 months, then go to 144 months if the 120 doesn't work. And now you've literally had 6 or 7 no's in there before you're picking up the phone call for the first MOD call. First one's social media, second one's flex install, and the third one is your manager special. Remembering to always do the porch light at the very end if you haven't, or any time that you see somebody is really into it and the other person's being polite, so that that conversation can take place in the home. All right, before I end the video, any specific questions to what we did here?
Do you go for a manager call before you do the 144? Does it sound like
I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Being
If I've
extended.
right, because I presented these 3, And then I included the 120 when I showed them the initial visit incentive, like that's part of that package. And even if it didn't get me here, I'm gonna do the 120, and then when I go to 144, I'm picking up the phone. Or maybe even if you're going to 180, if you're really chasing a number that you gotta get down to. We do have a 180 too. But I'm gonna start making phone calls at that point, so they see that I'm doing something special for them. Same thing if somebody can only come up with a $500 deposit. If I ask for 10 to 20, and then I anchored them at a 12 to 15, and they come back and I don't have more than 5, or I couldn't do more than 300. All right, well, it needs to be something you're comfortable with. Let me see what I can do, and I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to get a commitment to the payment options first. Like if I was up here, they only said 500. I would write 500. Would you do that with a check or credit card? Be like, all right, I'm probably going to have to make a phone call on that one, but let's cover the rest of it. Get this covered. Find out what this number is. And then that would be perfect. I would be able to go, so John, let me ask you, if I can get you approved for just the $500 on your credit card, and I get you one of our preferred financing options where it'll be under 300, is that going to work for you? I'm nodding my head. Now that is asking for the business, but I don't really know how you do anything else other than that.
Is that still comfortable for you?
Yeah, is that still comfortable for you? Something to that effect. And if they go, yeah, then I'd make a phone call on both of them. Yes, Cole.
So lose referral close. Are you you're getting those 5 things from the customer to give them the coupon?
Correct.
Once they give it to you, once they agree to those 5 things, that's where.
Once they do those 5
Once
things,
they do and agree, you'll give them.
I'm going to put the coupon and the letter in front of them at the same
So what
time.
exactly is the coupon saying?
You have a copy of it.
I know, I don't understand it very well.
So, all right, well, let me stop this and then we'll come back, because everybody on this probably does. Anything specific to what I just went over? Yes, Jared?
How would you word the MOD call when you call and get the 144 months?
So, hey, Mr. Spire, how you doing? I'm doing fine. Still going to talk about the place. Still going to talk about the people. Still going to talk about the project. That's for them to hear. Everybody loves where they live. Say something nice about it. Everybody wants to be talked about. Say something nice about them. Reference the old crap they have and the beautiful new stuff you're going to be doing, whatever it is. And then tell them where you're at. The affordability is telling the manager where you're at. So if I was talking about the 144 here, or the 120 here, or 144 elsewhere, but this is the first time I've made a phone call, I'd be like, Mr. Spire, listen, these people are really excited. As a matter of fact, they've really been over backwards to help us out. I was explaining to them about the initial visit incentive. They've given me 5 referrals. They've already done a Google and a Facebook review. They've liked and followed us on Facebook. I've already got the before pictures. They're completely comfortable with us coming back for the after pictures. They're going to give us a firm no or yes. They're completely on board with the program. Your incentive saved them $2,778. All 3 of us are excited about that. But when I gave them the financing, it came back at $312. They really need to be under $300. Sir, can I please give them the preferred 144 option? I really need that. I need you to let me use that program, because that's going to make this thing happen for these folks. They've been over backwards for us. We really need. I need access to that program. That's all I'm going to do. Just like that.
What
Yes.
if you present before you present the letter and the coupon, and you ask for all those things, and they say no?
Then they don't want it, need it, or
Okay, so you-
going to get it. I mean, I'm not going to leave. I'm still going to go to the bottom end. But I mean, I'm going to let. I mean, like. So remember, they don't know the program. So if they're not willing to do any of them, they're not willing to give me a review, they're not willing to like and follow me, they won't give me any referrals, they won't let me do before and after pictures, they're not buying. They ain't gonna buy from you. And that's the bottom line. Now, take the low-hanging fruit, because you're asking for a lot. Well, I don't know if I can do all that. Well, can I have before and after pictures? I already got the befores. Are you comfortable? Nobody's going to care about before and after pictures as long as their name's not plastered all over it. So nobody cares about that. Do you mind liking and following us on Facebook? I mean,
Can we try it again later when we do the social media MOD call? Like maybe like, hey, I know we talked about it before, but we do have a social media one. That one will get you the extra 8% or whatever it is.
So what I would do,
I think your,
The only way to
end
get
is
the
fine,
first one is to
both.
get this.
right? Well, so I'm going to stay there and be pretty adamant about it, because the reality is, if they give you all those things, you're gonna make a sale. You're gonna make a sale if they do all that. There's no question in my mind that you're gonna close. So the beauty of this, Christina, is instead of you, and I'm gonna use the word fight, like, you know, I love the, if y'all didn't catch it on Dominic's video, he talks about, we gotta get them to lower their guard, so when we're going to, our punches will connect once we get in there, so we don't telegraph our punches, and when we're hitting them, they're connecting because we got their guard lowered. So to use that same type of analogy, when we're in the close and we're in the thick of the battle, as somebody might say, though I don't want it to come across like a battle, but I think you know what I'm saying, is we're not battling over money. We're not battling over numbers. Instead, the whole thing comes about getting before and after pictures and referrals. So they give me resistance on these, but that's great, because if I can work through the resistance and get these items, I'm going to close this job. And I'm not having the battle be over the numbers. It's about this stuff. So I'm going to be willing to get in the trenches and slowly work through it step by step, even if it takes a little time. Because think about the psychology. If you got a Google and Facebook review and they liked and follow your website and they're going to give you before and after pictures, and you got 5 referrals from them, and then they tell you they'll give you a firm no or a yes, that person's very unlikely to not buy from you. Yes, Melissa?
What if you're in a situation where a customer is doing cash because they're doing a HELOC, but their HELOC doesn't fund?
All right, well, ask me that when we're off video, because I want to stick on this specific stuff. But I'll answer that. Just ask me off video.
So what's the, I guess, the verbiage or transition for the very next step after they agree to the 5 items of Lou's referrals?
So that's where the 5 items, Lou does the timeline close. I want to go from that. Instead, I want to do the grosso. So that's the verbiage, what the rep says under the major close. Go to your sales manual to where the major close chapter is, and what the rep says. That's the transition right after you've gotten the referrals to lead into the letters and the coupon. And that's the part I'll have in
You
version
showed
2.
them the letter and the coupon and they agreed. And I guess, what's the transition to show them the 120?
Oh, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to trash can the 1-year price promise, show them, look, you just saved $2,771, and you're also now eligible for one of our preferred financing options, and that brings the monthly to just, boom, because they became eligible for a preferred. See, I always can give you these 3, no matter what the Fed does in the next 12 months, I can always give you these 3. But since you've now decided to consider moving forward today, I've got some other financing options I don't know if I'll have in 3 or 4 months. But because you're considering moving forward now, you now can have this preferred financing option that brings the monthly investment down to just, and you quote, 120. That's the whole premise. You don't know, these you always have. You don't know if you have the preferred stuff with what the Fed's doing. I don't know how long that stuff will be around. All right, let me stop the video, and then we'll take some other more random questions. Did somebody knock on my door?